couple of things to ponder on. There's been a common theme around the world about Chinese elders. I'll try not to swear in this part. I think I've sworn enough in this show, more than I normally do. But despite no one being able to name any of them, no one appears to know who exactly these fabled elderly gentlemen are. But the common consensus is they are reverent, wisdom-based and benevolent, and how they all want to save the world. But where were these same fantastic elders when Pol Pot and Chairman Mao, who was Kuomintang, I might add, when those two were committing genocide in their own country and the neighbouring one? Where were these oh-so-nice elders then? Benevolent, my ass. Question to ponder. If the Cold War was all about the rise of communism, why wasn't China a Cold War enemy as well? Given their population is 10 times that of Russia, you would think they would be part of the Cold War, would you not? One of life's great mysteries, it seems. Or the real truth, the Cold War was all bullshittery. But we've got an update on the Yellow Vests Act 11, the 11th week of protest. And the SFP, the Syndicate of French Police, estimates the number of participants in the Yellow Vest protest now at 330,000. This includes evening manifestations and yellow vests at roundabouts, blocking the traffic, blocking the system. And they estimated the pro-Macron demonstration at 3,500, boosted by the media to 10,500. Well, they lie. That's what they do. So the pro-Macron is about 1% of the yellow vests protesters currently. And apart from the demonstrations, protesters also are blocking traffic, destroyed speeding cameras and toll gates at the highway. They also organised a bank run, destroyed ATM machines, and there are thousands of manifestations taking place now for the last 11 weeks. Now the pressure on the police increases. On top of the daytime demonstrations, the Yellow Vests also organised the Yellow Night to wear out the police. And the police has to work 16-hour working days or more now when mobilised for all the events, often on top of a 5-day full-time working week. And more of the police officers are calling in sick. They are harassed by the authorities and pressured to go back to work. And last week, the 11th police officer committed suicide since the beginning of this year. You see more and more cops without uniform, so it looks like they are recruiting more mercenaries, which is correct, 100%. Police violence. The demonstrations last Saturday started peacefully. Unfortunately, some demonstrations in the big cities again turned out into a violent clash between the police and the protesters. And the scene, as can be seen in the many video clips shared on Twitter and YouTube, looks more like a war zone and a massacre than a democratic Western nation. On Saturday, January the 26th, one of the figureheads of the Yellow Vest movement, Jerome Rodriguez, was also injured, and he probably has lost his right eye. Now the scene was filmed, and there are reasons to believe it was a deliberate attack on one of the main figureheads of the Yellow Vest movement. A hand grenade, of all things, police don't carry hand grenades, and a flashball gun was fired at him at the same time. Just before the attack, someone screamed, "Lower your gun, do not point it at the head." 3 seconds later, Jerome was hit, and he's likely to lose his eye. Now, internal police investigators have launched an inquiry, as has the Paris prosecutor. More than 80 similar inquiries have been launched following serious injuries or legal complaints during the Yellow Vest protests. Now, the violence has seemed to escalate. The mercenaries, of which the police claim belong to La BAC, seem to get orders to kill. And there are several photos and a video that show these mercenaries and police officers with a hammer as a weapon. So, taking stock after 11 weeks, at least 6,000 people have been arrested. It's not clear how many, as many are still in custody. 13 people have died, 1,100 casualties among police, 2,200 casualties among protesters, 104 severely wounded, amputees, brain injuries, organ failure, permanent handicap. 2 are in coma, and at least 18 people have lost an eye, and at least 4 people have lost a hand, and 11 police officers have committed suicide. Now, last week, President Macron signed the Aachen Treaty with Angela Merkel, paving the way for a European army. This is how they can funnel more funds to NATO, as the European army is already in place, the Rothschilds' private army known as NATO, deep state clowns. And in the past few weeks, a number of European tanks with a European flag instead of a French flag have been spotted on the streets of France. What do the Yellow Vests want? Well, the majority of the movement is realising that a few tokens like temporary tax cuts is not going to solve their problems. They are becoming more and more aware of the repressive system that is operating on behalf of an elite, and not the majority of the people, which is a good sign. Since the Yellow Vests movement, the system is showing its real face. And for those of you who have seen the videos, oh boy, they have. But what I'm going to say is, whilst I never condone violence, I've watched some of them fighting back. So kudos to the French people. Us Brits are never, or historically not fond of French people. We have a bit of a rivalry. But kudos to them. So, therefore, they're ready to embrace a real solution. And one of the ideas that the majority supports is the RIC, referendum initiative by the citizens. Now, RIC would reform the political system and change it from a representative system to a participants system. People will have a direct say in the legislation and no longer have to depend on representatives. In brief, they will be able to initiate a referendum, votes are binding, propose legislation, able to change the constitution, abolish existing laws, and repeal of representatives. These reform measures would give the people the power back. It would also give them the opportunity to exit Europe, known as Frexit. Needless to say, the ruling elite does not want this implemented, and they came up with a ruse to divide the movement and control the opposition by forming a new political party, Gilets Jaunes, Yellow Vest, RIC. Not RIC as abbreviation of Referendum Initiative by the Citizens, but Règlement d'Initiative Citoyen, which means something like Rally of the Initiative by the Citizens. This is what they do. Just a sleight of hand again. It's a common theme. We've heard it enough in tonight's show. They just switch it around a bit. This political party will run for the up-and-coming European elections this spring, and the party has 10 candidates. Well, they got them very quick, didn't they? That should give people a clue. And one of the candidates is Marc Doyer, an avid supporter of Macron in December last year. This initiative reeks like a controlled opposition, because it is. And it's a common theme that a second organisation is founded that is a copy of a successful yet threatening grassroots movement. It's a bit like the Irish story, and the Protestants morphed into a religion. It's all sleight of hand. And for example of this taking place previously, the ITNJ, which is Robert David Steele, Stone and other goons, as a copy of the ITCCS, which is Kevin Annett and his fairly groundbreaking stuff that he's done. Right on the ground, spoken to all the people in Canada who have suffered the most horrendous abuse, and seen all their friends die. Just shut them up. ITNJ is fake. They'll hear the stories and they're going to whitewash it, because Robert David Steele is not ex-CIA, he is CIA. And this copy is a mirrored version of the original, often with opposite objectives. This copy organisation seems to have funding in a short space of time, just like ITNJ, has access to resources and gets lots of positive media coverage. In other words, they're doing a spin. That in itself is an achievement for the French people, that they've got to invest that time and money to provide a spin that quickly. I told you we had the power. And the mainstream media propaganda has up until now mostly ignored or downplayed the police violence against the Yellow Vests, as well as ignored their version of RIC. But now the mainstream media suddenly promotes the new political party, Yellow Vests RIC, and this is highly suspicious. Now, as I said, I've watched some of the videos of violence in France, and I'm going to say it again, kudos for the French people for fighting back against the cops. Regular listeners will know I do not condone violence per se, but under such provocation that those people went through, people have the right to defend themselves from such brutal tactics used by those in Navy uniforms. Some cops got back, and more what they have been dishing out on a regular basis. I warned of all this back in 2014. Cops would be in big trouble once the police rose up. I even invited an ex-cop onto the show who had been on PBS, except he declined. But the world over has watched these glorified thugs intimidate, shoot at, maim and kill people day after day for something as trivial as a traffic offence, never mind a protesting movement. And it was only a matter of time before people said enough is enough. Cops will suffer increasing injuries and deaths at the hands of the public. Why? Because they are the first line of defence to protect the criminal elite. Cops need to tell the criminal elite to go and do their own dirty work and face the public, not risk their lives, risk injuries, risk committing suicide. And it's time for the cops to step down in various places of discord, and if they do, I hope the public support them. I hope the public then don't abuse the situation by looting and going on crime sprees like what happened in Brazil when the cops went on strike there last year. This type of behaviour is why they feel we need a control system. If we all acted responsibly, there's no need for it. And both have a responsibility to come together, the police and the protesters. But for the cops, you lot are in big trouble. Big trouble. Hiding behind your shields, your weaponry, arrogance and thuggery to protect a system that doesn't give a flying shit about you or your family. Like everyone else, they'll throw you under the bus. So to the cops in France and globally, ask yourselves, what am I actually protecting here? Why have I been sent to Israeli military training to do a police job? Why am I being asked to spray chemicals in people's eyes? Why am I being asked to maim and kill people who are protesting about life? Why have all police been given mind control radios? All of you. Oops. Why am I protecting something that is damaging my own friends and family? Why am I attacking my own people? It's time, like the generals, for you all to down tools and embrace the protesters. They will welcome you. We all want the same things deep down. So why risk your life for a system that crushes us all? Hashtag cops walk away. Or better still, keep your weaponry and join the protesters. Hashtag cops fight the system. Maybe this is what the bureaucrats fear and why they want an EU army. A collection of paid mercenary thugs. Some of those groups we will name after this. A few new names for you all to take note of and go and do your research with regards to mercenary-styled so-called security groups. Now, the first one you will be familiar with, or most of you will anyway. Academy, spelt with an I on the end, not a Y, as that's the new name of the Erik Prince Blackwater Group. Here's some others that you may not be familiar with. Triple Canopy, Omniplex, Constellis, AMK9, Olive Group, Centera, Edinburgh International, TDI, and Strategic Social Security. Take note of them. They're some of the goons that are really running countries and governments.